On the line with us is Kai Newkirk, a progressive organizer with Democracy Spring, co-founder of 99 Rise. DemocracySpring.org is the website. You can tweet him at Kai_Newkirk or at DemSpring or at 99 Rise. Kai, welcome. Welcome back, actually.
Yes, great to be back with you, Tom.
Thank you. So tell us, what is Democracy Spring?
Well, we believe, we certainly hope, Tom, that it's going to be the beginning of the end of this corruption that we're seeing in our democracy. We're going to meet in Philadelphia at the Liberty Bell, the home of the Constitution, this Saturday, calling everybody to come out and join us. And over 100 Americans from 33 states across the country are going to come together, and we're going to start a march, 10 days, 140 miles to the Capitol in Washington, D.C. And when we start, we're going to issue a simple demand to Congress. You got to take action to end this corruption of big money in politics and ensure free and fair elections that give everyone an equal voice. And if they don't do it by the time we arrive, we feel that we have no choice but to start a massive nonviolent sit-in to reclaim the people's house and to send a message that we are not going to take this anymore.
And you know that they're not going to do it. I mean, the Republicans control the House and the Senate. There's the probability of anything being done is zero. So you are going to be engaged in civil disobedience.
We are prepared for it. You know, in the nonviolent movement tradition, you always sort of hope for the best and reach for the best from your opponents, right? But you're prepared to do what's necessary if they do not respond to a just demand. And so we have spoken on the phone to almost 1,000 people now who are going to be coming, who are prepared to sit in, to risk arrest, to demand an equal voice in our democracy. And we want to spark something. You know, there's something building in the country, incredible frustration around the corrupt political status quo, which maintains the rigged economy. We wouldn't see the rise of Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump from completely outside of what people considered possible in terms of, you know, candidates competing seriously for the nomination if it wasn't tapping into something. But we know Bernie says all the time, right? It's not me, us. There has to be a movement, right? If there's going to be a political revolution, it's beyond any candidate. It's beyond any party. It has to come from the grassroots. The people have to stand up and be willing to disrupt business as usual and say, we're going to raise the political price of defending the corrupt status quo until it becomes absolutely impossible for anyone to stand against the force of the movement that's building. And I believe that this can be a moment that takes a great step forward in that.
Yeah, I agree. And I salute you for what you're doing. Do you have, we're talking with Kai Newkirk, the organizer or one of the organizers of Democracy Spring, co-founder of 99 Rise. DemocracySpring.org is the website. Kai, are you making a general demand for, transparency in government, open, fair elections and that sort of thing? Or do you have specific legislation that you're promoting?
That's right. We are making a general demand, as I said, for Congress to take immediate action to end this corruption of big money in politics and ensure free and fair elections that give us all an equal voice. But we want to be clear, if people say, well, like Occupy Wall Street, what was your demand? Well, we're very clear about the demand and steps that Congress can take to meet it. There's 4 different bills that are collecting dust, you could say, in Congress right now, that would be serious steps forward. 2 that deal with voting rights, protecting and expanding them, and 2 that deal with big money in politics, overturning Citizens United through a constitutional amendment, and then setting up public or citizen funding that enables us all to be those who are funding the political process, not just the 1%. But there's a 5th step that they can take now, that there's a vacancy on the Supreme Court, which is filling that by confirming a nominee who will vote to uphold the principle of political equality. And we want to be clear, there's no excuse for inaction, Tom. I mean, if Paul Ryan or any member of Congress wants to say that the bills that we prefer, the solutions that we prefer are imperfect, let them put forward an alternative. Let them put something on the table. Let's have hearings. Let's have a select committee, right? Let's have a floor debate. This is a crisis. The vast majority of the American people, Republican, Democratic, Independent, agree there needs to be change, and they need to listen to the people, do their job, and try to solve this problem. And if they refuse to do that, then they're going to have to make a choice to send hundreds of patriotic Americans to jail day after day simply for sitting in to say that the government of, by, and for the people, for which so many have fought and struggled, sacrificed, bled, even died in our country, that we are not going to let that be taken away by a billionaire class and those who want to suppress the vote.
Yeah, well, it's largely already been taken away, has it not? I mean, the study out of Princeton showed that the interests of the bottom 90% are as likely to be enacted into legislation statistically as random noise, whereas the interests of the top 10% are far more likely, are measurably likely to be enacted, and the interests of the top 1% are consistently enacted.
Right. So our scholars are confirming, I think, what the people feel, right, which is that functionally, we are not a democracy. We're a plutocracy. It's an oligarchy, that there's this tiny elite, a fraction of the wealthiest 1%, that really have power within our system because of the way our elections are funded, because of the way our laws structure them. And what we're saying is that this, it's been a dream. It's been a promise from the start, of the founding of the country. It's been an aspiration to democracy, and we've never crossed that finish line, and in some ways, perhaps we never will. But right now, we're in a serious fight about an existential one after we've gone through so much struggle to bring nearly everyone into the circle of those who can vote. There's been a subversion of that by saying, well, maybe you can vote, but there's going to be a wealth primary that decides what candidates are viable, right? And you don't get to play in that unless you have a whole lot of money, right? So we're being cut out of that process at the same time as they're trying to cut out people from being able to vote again, especially the most vulnerable, people of color, the poor. We saw what happened in Arizona, right, in the Democratic primary. That is a harbinger of what is to come if we do not step up and do something now. Almost half the states in the union have passed new voter suppression laws since the Supreme Court struck down parts of the Voting Rights Act. So we are in a growing crisis, and your listeners know this, right? But there's hope because there are clear solutions on the table. There are things we can do to solve this problem, people, but it's not going to happen without a movement that steps up and demands it. And we know in generations before, when people have taken action like this, been willing to put their bodies, their liberty on the line to disrupt business as usual and demand change, that it has forced change. And we can do that now. There's a growing movement in this country, and we've got to light that spark this April in D.C. as part of Democracy Spring. And we're going to start with a march in Philadelphia on this Saturday.
So the day after tomorrow in Philadelphia at the Liberty Bell at, did you say noon?
That's right. 10 a.m.
10 a.m.
We're going to rally, and then at noon we start the march to D.C. We arrive on April 11th.
Okay, cool. Kai Newkirk, democracyspring.org for all the information. Kai, keep up the great work. Thanks so much for dropping by today.
Great to be with you.
Thank you.
To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.